Hello, my children. Welcome to the show, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good evening or morning or afternoon or whatever it is, wherever you happen to be. Glad we could all be here together once again. As usual, and as it says in the pinned message in the live chat. Oh, hi, Saint Beatles. I just noticed you said you've never been to one of my live streams before. Uh, Good to have you here. Glad you could make it. Matthew, you're all my children in my heart, even if physically that's impossible. Anyway, um, as usual, I will be responding to questions that were submitted ahead of time by my wonderful Patreon patrons and channel members. So if you're joining us live and you have a question that you want me to answer in the live chat, or you were planning on being generous with a super chat or something like that, please hold on to those things if possible until I get through the patron and the member questions, because until then I will not be paying strict attention to the live chat. So that being said, let's get started with the patron and member questions. And the first one of those comes from Dataport Doll, who says, "Evening, Steve. One of my biggest pet peeves in fiction is prominently displayed in Harry Potter, the attempt by the writer to disguise the fantastical trappings in such a way as to make it plausible that the story could be happening right now or could have happened in the past. I think this is the sci-fi fantasy equivalent of the slow lane for chumps, so unsure of their work. They have to make it plausible to the audience who is so poisoned by Reagan-era policies they can't care about something unless it affects them personally. This also happens to be true of Star Trek, often in subtle but sometimes very naked fashions. There was, for example, the attempt some years ago to rewrite the eugenics wars as some secret Illuminati-esque conspiracy rather than World War 2.5 as it was described in TOS, since obviously the world didn't enter a dark age in 1996 unless you count the founding of Coldplay. Do you agree? How much should Star Trek plausibly be our future, and when should it just let it go? I tend to lean in the direction of just let it go. When it comes to stuff like that, where like the real history has caught up to the fake history of Star Trek in certain respects, and obviously has contradicted it. My philosophy is just don't worry about it. Like, if you're writing a story, if you're writing a Star Trek show or a movie or whatever, and for some reason you need to make reference to the eugenics wars, just go ahead and do it. Don't worry about it. And reference it as it was established in the original series, if that's what you want to. Like, who cares? Um, on the other hand, if you're doing like what it seems like the Picard series is doing for its upcoming second season, if you want to do a time travel episode or time travel story arc where the characters come back in time to our current era, make it our current era. Like, don't worry about like, well, gee, if the eugenics wars had like when they did the Future's End two-parter on Voyager in, I think it was in 1996, and a lot of the sort of hardcore Star Trek nerds were like, wait a minute, the eugenics wars was in the mid 90s, and there's no evidence of eugenics wars in the Future's End episode of Voyager. Um, and that's one of those just repeat to yourself, it's just a show, I should really just relax moments. Like, they wanted to do an episode where the crew came back in time to contemporary America, right? They didn't want it to be fake contemporary America where the eugenics wars was happening. They wanted to have the Star Trek Voyager characters running around in a recognizable version of our own society. So that's what they did. And that's what they should have done. That was the right decision. Who gives a shit about the eugenics wars? The story wasn't about the eugenics wars. Don't worry about it. It's backstory anyway. Who cares? Um, so that's my philosophy. Don't worry about it. If you need to reference the eugenics wars or something else like that, like something that has since been contradicted by real life that was established in an earlier version of Star Trek, just go ahead and reference it. Just go ahead and treat it as though it's real. Treat it as canon. But if you need to ignore it for some other purpose in another story, do that too. Who gives a shit? Stop like getting so tense and so tied up in making everything fit and making everything internally consistent, like especially if you're talking about things that do not affect the everyday reality that you're creating in the show. You know, like if you do an episode that references the eugenics wars and then you do another episode that seems to contradict that, like who cares? Like does it really break the emotional reality of the show for stuff like that? It doesn't for me. Like, and I don't see why it's reasonable to, you know what I mean? So just don't worry about it is my philosophy. Like just let it go. Tell the best story you can tell in the moment, right now. Black Cover 95, who hopes you've read The Metropolitan Man, which I have not. Someone on R Ask Science Fiction commented how writers often create a second race of people as a superior version of humanity, one which represents us at our very best. Elves in fantasy, Vulcans in sci-fi, angels in popular Christian media, and a third race which represents humanity when at their worst: orcs, early Klingons, demons. In that sense, would you say Stuffy is your elf? Which Stephen Stuffy characters are your orcs? Interesting question. Stuffy is definitely the the um the optimal version of me. I've said that before when people have asked me about Stuffy and like, where does the inspiration come come from for his character, and I say Stuffy is me, Stuffy is me with all of my best qualities turned way up and all of my bad qualities turned way down. Like that's who Stuffy is. And of the surviving Stuffy characters, of the characters who I am still allowed to use and will be making future appearances in the show, as we do new Stuffy shows at some point. um I guess probably Jack. I mean, Jack has less of me in him than some of the retired characters did. Um, but there is still a lot of me in Jack. And even though I don't have Jack's specific problems, like Jack is very violent and Jack has a drinking problem, and Jack has a lot of anger issues that are specific to him, that are not thankfully drawn from my own personality. But Jack is very selfish and Jack is very impulsive, and even when he's not being selfish, when he is doing something on behalf of one of his friends, or doing something for somebody else, um, he tends to do it in a very aggressive, impulsive way. And I do have that side to my personality. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. I think it can lead to recklessness, and Jack is definitely a very reckless character. But yeah, I would say probably Jack would be the orc, would be the less optimal version of me among the Stuffy cast. Um, Next question is from Valerie Skelton, who says, "Hey, I'm just wondering if you've ever seen Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra before. And if you have, I wanted to know what you thought of them. I watched them around the time they came out, and I found them both to be extremely moving, outstanding shows, even similar to Star Trek in a lot of ways. Both Avatar shows deal with relevant social, political issues in really creative ways. They have incredible character arcs, much like DS9. They have profoundly deep emotional scenes that make me tear up at the mere thought of, and yet they can also be laugh out loud funny at times. After watching a bunch of your videos, I kind of feel like I have a good idea of the type of shows you like, and I think you would really like the Avatar series. So if you haven't seen them yet, I highly recommend giving them a chance. And if you have seen both of them but haven't read the official comics that take place immediately after the shows end, I recommend those two. Boy, it sounds like I'm signing up for an awful lot. I have not watched them. I have had them recommended to me by other people as well, who have said you should watch these, and I haven't. It's hard for me to describe, but I just can't get excited about it. Like it doesn't, like I. You're right. In theory, that does sound like something I would enjoy, at least in terms of like the emotional stuff. Like it deals with issues, and it's capable of being like really deeply moving and also really funny. Like that's the sort of stuff that I generally gravitate toward and really appreciate, but I just can't get excited about it. Like I've clicked past it on Netflix so many times, and it's just never been something that I've even, at times when I've been looking for a new show to watch, and I'm just like, I don't feel like watching this, so I haven't watched it. Maybe I'll watch it at some point, and if I do, I hope that I will find it as engrossing as you describe it there, and as you think I would. But no, I have not watched it, and I have not felt any particular pull to watch it, despite it being recommended to me by a lot of people. Um, David Colby says, your reaction to my last question has revealed that I can cause you torment at any time by beginning my questions with, I've been X about tabletop RPGs. A foolish lapse in your normal Machiavellian competence, Shives, one that will cost you dearly in our continuing battle of wits. Anyway, pardon me. Anyway, I've been wondering, is it purely the trappings about fantasy stories, elves, magic, stone castles, big dragons, that you find tiresome? Or assumptions about the stories, characters, and themes that repel you? If it's the former, that's fair. If it's the latter, that's also fair. I'm just curious. I don't think it can entirely be the trappings, because I do like certain things that have those aspects, that have those elements. Usually they're very silly things like He-Man, like the original He-Man cartoon, which has magic and sort of has elves, has elf-ish characters. um and of course has stone castles, one in particular, and has dragons. And the dragons in He-Man I have always found very entertaining, and very fun. And and they have not stopped me from enjoying He-Man. But as I say, He-Man is a very silly show, and there are other, like the Harry Potter movies. I mostly enjoy those, especially when it gets into that sweet spot toward the middle of the series, like movies 3, 4, and 5, and even kind of movie 6. I think is still pretty good. But then you get to those last two, and it's like, oh boy, they really just they just like, it's like, was the script just the book? Because it doesn't seem like they cut any of this. They should have cut like half of this shit out. Um, but but I enjoy the Harry Potter movies, and I'm not like I'm not immediately put to sleep by the thought of Harry Potter, or a Harry Potter movie, or that world. And I think part of that is that it is a contemporary setting. It's not set in some mystical, far off, land before time type place. Um, the characters, for the most part, talk like normal people. They're not talking in the sort of phony, elevated, pretentious idiom that most high fantasy characters talk in. They're not talking like Tolkien characters, in other words, or characters written by people who worship Tolkien and think he was a great writer, which unfortunately seems to be most modern high fantasy writers, people who read The Lord of the Rings when they were kids and thought that is like the pinnacle of the English language, and so they all fucking write like that, and it's just tedious. Um, and pretentious, and self-congratulatory, and a lot of it is just the sense I get of, there's a pretentiousness and a portentiousness to it. There's a feeling that these aren't silly stories, that this is really deep, really important stuff, and it's just so pregnant with meaning, you know? And people talk in these highfalutin soliloquies, and it just bores me to tears. It's like, how am I how do you not see how stupid this is? Like, it's like if the entire Richard Donner Superman movie had been done in the style of the Krypton prologue. You know what I mean? Or like if everybody in the whole movie talked like that, and it was all that reverence and all that phony, like almost piety, and it's just like, oh my God, like it's just so fucking dull and stupid. And so I think it's so maybe not stories, characters, themes, but just the tone and the aesthetic, and if it's writing, the voice, and if it's a film, it's you know pacing, and the aesthetic, and the the treatment of the material as though those Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movies. It's like that dude thought he was adapting like the Epic of Gilgamesh or something. He thought he was making like he was like a Christian making a movie of the Bible. You know what I mean? Like treating it as like scripture. It was like this deep, beautiful, meaningful thing. And I'm just like, this is so dumb. There's fucking elves in it. Like, you know, and it has no sense of humor about itself at all. It has no self-awareness at all. Like it really thinks it's some deep shit, and it's just not. I mean, to me anyway. Other people obviously disagree, but I think that's my big problem with it. That's the big barrier between me and most stories of that kind of fantasy, that sort of high fantasy, is just they present themselves as though they are these really like important, deep, meaningful stories, and I just regard them as goofy and silly. And I laugh at the pretentiousness of them, and find it kind of I find that kind of off-putting, and I find the stories themselves just really tedious. Um, so that's the big. I think that's the big thing. It's not quite any of those things that you propose. It's more just the attitude and the presentation behind it. John Burns, hey Steve, hydrate. You're going to need it. Well, all right then. Don't look up. Giving all the money to the NASA head wouldn't work. She was a super donor. Sure hope Omicron goes away from North America at least. We take shots to visit lots of countries, so one more isn't a big deal. But we don't quarantine after getting those other shots or wear masks, so let's lower things. Anyway, on to my question. Who do you think had a more blunderful, blunderous, blunderific interview, Alec Baldwin or Prince Andrew? I did not actually watch the Prince Andrew interview, so I can't speak to that. I know that the Alec Baldwin interview, I did watch the Alec Baldwin interview, and it's one of those things where it's like, it probably would have been better just to not say anything. You know, like it didn't make me think that Alec Baldwin was somehow more responsible for the shooting than I did before, but it just was not a good look for him. I mean, it seemed like he was doing it because he felt like he had to do it to cover his ass. And I just think it would have been better if he had kept his mouth shut, you know, and let whatever legal proceedings need to go forward, you know, through the proper channels, through his attorneys and stuff like that. And don't do the George Stephanopoulos interview. Like, it just, there's no, you know, it puts me in mind a little bit also of the recent the New York Magazine piece that was published this week about Joss Whedon. And you know, and I'm like even less sympathetic to Joss Whedon than I am to Alec Baldwin. I believe the Alec Baldwin thing was an accident, you know, whereas Joss Whedon, his downfall was brought about by his own shitty behavior. So I have no sympathy for him. But just from a purely public relations standpoint, it's like, just keep your mouth shut. Like, what are you doing? Just shut up. It's better for you to not say anything than to do this. Like, this is just, you know, so I don't know. And like I said, I didn't see the Prince Andrew interview, so I can't speak to that, but the Alec Baldwin interview, and to add my own 2 cents to it and bring in the Joss Whedon thing, like, I don't think any of those were wise moves on the parts of the people who did them at all. Agent Meister, Peldor Joys, Steve, I watched your recent video on Star Trek's approach to comedy. I don't know if it was your best video ever, but it was certainly your funniest, and I want you to know that the halls of my house were echoing with my guffaws for hours after. Well, thank you, my friend. Then I got to thinking, how long did that take to make? So tell me, Steve, how much time would you spend on your average Trek Actually video between sitting down for the first time, having decided on a topic, and finally posting it on YouTube? I assume you review the videos before you decide to share them with us, and I'm fascinated to know how you feel about watching yourself. I hate, absolutely hate, the sound of my voice when it's played back to me, and I know that I'm far from alone in that regard. I've always wondered how someone in your line of work feels about it. As far as how long it takes to do a Trek Actually video, all told, including the writing, it usually takes about a week. 6 to 7 days, typically. Because writing the script generally takes a few days, And then what I usually do on weeks when I'm doing a Star Trek video is I'll try to have the script ready to go by either Friday or Saturday so I can shoot on Saturday and edit from Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and hopefully have it done by Monday and exported Monday night. So then Tuesday, because more recently, the last couple of months, I purchased some AI upscaling software that sort of just sharpens up the video and makes it look like it was it just makes it look better. And so I've been doing that as like the last phase of my production before I upload it. I upscale it, and for a video um, of the typical length of a Trek Actually video, that most of the Trek Actually videos are between 30, sometimes 40 minutes, but in that range usually, maybe 25 to 40 minutes is the way they range. So upscaling it is a very time consuming process because it does it frame by frame, and it can take usually sometimes more than a day, more than a full day to upscale an entire one of my videos. Um, so I need to build in time for that if I want to have it ready to go and be able to release it on Wednesday morning like I typically do. So Saturday, shoot it, and then Saturday, Sunday, Monday, edit it and try to get it in good shape and ready that I can export it so then I can upscale it the next day and have it ready to be released on YouTube on Wednesday. So it takes, I mean, it's about a week-long process altogether. Um, and as far as hearing my own voice or seeing myself on camera, I've never really had a problem with that. That's never bothered me. I know it does bother other people. Other people do not enjoy seeing themselves on camera or hearing their voice played back to them. That's never bothered me. And at this point, even if it did bother me, I would be used to it by now because it's it's part of the workflow. Like I watch myself during the editing process. I listen to myself during the editing process. It's just what happens. I will say there was when I first started doing videos, um, it didn't like it wasn't off-putting and it wasn't something that made me sort of go, ugh. But I did notice when I looked at myself in the video, I looked a little off. I didn't quite look the way I expected myself to look. And the reason that was happening was because I had always seen my own face in the mirror, and obviously I've seen myself on video and pictures and stuff before too, but it's just you're kind of looking at it and then you put it down. But to actually see myself and look at myself for like a sustained period of time, uh, without it being a mirror image, that it looked wrong to me, even though that's the way I actually look. That's the way I look to other people. I was used to my mirror image, which was flipped. Um, but that's gone now. Like I've looked at now when I look at my face on camera and I look at my face in the mirror, like I don't discern any difference. It looks exactly the same to me because I've seen both now so many times that I just read it as me. But when I first started working with video and editing myself for the YouTube channel, I did notice that I didn't look right. But that hasn't, I haven't thought that for a very, very long time. Andrew Priest says, so I recently watched a magnificent video on Jesse Gender's channel about Star Trek being one of the horniest shows of the 1960s. And one of the many utterly delightful parts of the video was hearing my favorite Trek tuber starring as none other than Roddenberry himself. You were alongside my other favorite Trek tubers, Rowan Coleman, Sean Farrick, and of course, Jesse herself. Would you consider doing any other collaborative projects? You guys are all so positive and talented, but with very different styles. And I think you'd all complement each other really well. Please, Steve, somehow make it so. Well, anytime Jesse asks me to collab on a video, if I can possibly do it, I will. I mean, she's asked me to do Roddenberry's voice twice now, I think. And then she also asked me last year to read some lines from um, from the things they carried for a video she was doing about that short story and not just the things they carried, but some some lines from the author about, you know, how the story was written and how the story differed from his real life experience and why he made the choices he made to present it the way he did. And and that was, and I mean, that was great. That was a really, I really enjoyed doing that. So, I mean, anytime Jesse has, and of course I've played Dr. Racy in a couple of her videos now. So, I'm up to collab with Jessie Gender anytime she wants to. And Sean, I think Sean Farrick and I talked to each other on Twitter a little bit and just sort of batted around the idea of collaborating on something at some point in the future, but it never got any further than that. So, I mean, it may happen at some point, but I don't have a particular idea, and I don't know if Sean has a particular idea or not, but I'm certainly open to it. I don't know if Rowan and I have ever interacted, but I mean, I'm open to collaborating with people if it's, you know, if the project interests me and if I think I have something to contribute, you know, then I'm very open to it. Jesse and I reached out to Jesse a couple days ago about a potential future collaboration. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. But I mean, I've collaborated with her before and I would definitely do so again. Yeah, because I think she's great. I think they're all great. Madeline, good evening, Steve. I hope you're doing well. What is your favorite behind the scenes story or trivia for any piece of media? This is a deceptively difficult question because I feel like there's something I'm forgetting. I do have an answer, and I think it's a good answer, but I feel like there's something that, like, after I say this, I'll think about it, you know, tonight or tomorrow or a week from now, and I'll go, oh shit, I should have said that. But my answer is, um, in Pulp Fiction, there's the scene near the end where the diner is being robbed and Jules and Vincent are there, and Jules eventually gets the upper hand on the Tim Roth character, Honey Bunny, and or Pumpkin, whichever one he is. And he says, I want you to go in that bag and get my wallet, because the Tim Roth character he's taken all of the wallets of the patrons. He's robbing the place and he takes all their wallets. And so Jules says, go in that bag and get my wallet. And Tim Roth says, which one's yours? And Jules says, it's the one that says bad motherfucker. So he reaches into the bag and he fishes around and he pulls out a wallet that has stitched on the front of it the words bad motherfucker. That is actually Quentin Tarantino's wallet. Quentin Tarantino owns that wallet. It was his wallet before he made the movie. It was, I assume, his wallet while he was writing the script. And so that is, I think, my favorite bit of trivia, that the bad motherfucker wallet from Pulp Fiction was actually Quentin Tarantino's wallet. But there are other ones that I can think of too. Like, we just talked about it on the Unforgiven episode of Late Seating that we did just recently. That the boots Clint Eastwood wears in Unforgiven are a pair of boots that he wore when he was making Rawhide in the 60s. And I love that little tidbit. Like, it's the same boots from the TV show that made him a star in the beginning of his career, and then the Western that he made in the early 90s that was sort of the creative capstone of his career, and he's wearing the same boots, you know. I thought that was cool. I love the fact that Ralph Macchio was given the car that Daniel is given by Miyagi in the movie The Karate Kid. And, like, he still has that car. He owns the car. The car that Miyagi gives Daniel in The Karate Kid now belongs to Ralph Macchio, and he has owned it ever since that movie was made. So that's another one that I just love. But yeah, I think the Quentin Tarantino actually owning the bad motherfucker wallet is probably my favorite little bit of trivia, at least as far as I can think of. Like I said, I might come up with a better one at some point between now and whenever. But as I sit here, I think Quentin actually, that actually being Quentin Tarantino's wallet, I think is my favorite bit. Stephen G. Clenard says, Steve, you're a DC Comics guy. maybe you can help me with some questions that have been vexing me for some time. Suppose it's movie night at the Hall of Justice, and it's Batman's turn to pick a flick. What do they watch? Does the MCU exist in the DC universe? Which would be his favorite? Of course, the DC universe would almost certainly not have the Snyderverse films. Can you confirm? Speaking of which, do you think this would make a good premise for a real world hero? Relentlessly dunking on Zack Snyder Man. This scruffy, ball cap clad schlub is generally down to earth and affable, but speak not the true name of his nemesis, lest you unleash the raging monster within, dooming him to an eternity of ranting about and enumerating the many moral and artistic flaws of his artistic foe. Rhymes with Yak Rider Man. Thoughts? Well, relentlessly dunking on Zack Snyder Man sounds like an especially intelligent fellow, and also sounds a little familiar, except for the part about being scruffy and schlubby. That does not ring true. But other than that, it sounds familiar. And yeah, I like the idea of the MCU existing in the DC universe. I like the idea of the Justice League being fans of Marvel comics and the Marvel movies. And what would be Batman's favorite? What would be Batman's favorite MCU movie? I don't know. Maybe Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Maybe he would enjoy the Falcon and the Winter Soldier Disney Plus series. But I love the idea of them existing as fictional characters in the DC universe, and then also eventually doing a crossover and just not mentioning it. Like, I like the idea of like Superman and Batman have movie night and they watch a Spider-Man movie, and then at some point later we do a Spider-Man Superman crossover where Spider-Man just exists in the world as a real person and the movie thing is just never mentioned. Like, I like that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if Batman had really good taste, I don't know. He probably would. He would probably still say the Winter. I think the Winter Soldier is pretty high up there for me as far as the MCU movies. So yeah, something like that. Some random geek, the Scarlet Pimpernel of the left. So Phoenix's Snap hasn't been canceled, but it's been reduced from $250 a month to $0. So Phoenix, a disabled, queer, black, trans mask sex worker, has to make up for a $250 loss. Steve, how long do I have to scream from the mountaintop and beat the drum of capitalism is killing my friends? Capitalism is killing my friends. Capitalism is killing my friends. Again, one of my disabled friends is receiving terrible news like this, losing benefits, need to appeal or to receive less money. This news is awful and will put them into a downward spiral if one has depression like Phoenix. Steve, I know you're supportive of this government or the state, but it is hard for me to say this style of government is good when it supports capitalism and is letting my friends, letting my friends die, I assume you were going to say there. No voting rights, not even small, mild, build back better crumbs. I have so few characters for my rant. Is Phoenix supposed to suffer for the next 40 years as incrementalism finally changes up? I'll get my drum. No, look, I mean, I can't really respond to that other than to say that I'm right there with you. Like, I feel, you have every right to be upset. And that, especially the bit about, their SNAP benefits haven't been canceled. They've just been reduced to $0. So what's the fucking difference? That is maddening to me. But yeah, I don't blame you for being upset at all. I don't know. And it's not I'm not going to tell you like, it's not capitalism's fault, young man. Like I'm not going to tell you that. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. I mean, I was, even though it's nothing else than what I expected, but I was upset by the failure of the voting rights bill this week. I was upset by the failure to change the filibuster rules so they could pass that bill like that. I expected that to happen because Manchin and Sinema said we're not going to change the filibuster. It wasn't a surprise, but it was still disappointing, So I mean, I can't tell you that you don't have a right to be upset, or that um, you should be feeling any other way than what you're feeling. Like I would not do that at all. And hopefully Phoenix and people in similar situations will not have to continue to suffer. And just and because incrementalism doesn't need to mean teensy tiny little changes every few years. Like incrementalism can still allow for significant life changing reform. Like, so hopefully Phoenix and other people will not need to wait 40 years for meaningful change. I certainly hope that is not the case. Um, Danny K says, "Hey Steve, hope you're doing well. Do you have a favorite philosopher and or favorite philosophical work of literature?" As it happens, I do. So I have never studied philosophy in any deep way. I think I might have taken like one philosophy class in college. And we read some other like philosophical texts like in some of my English classes. But I've never studied philosophy in any sort of formal, deep sense. So I'm not well read in philosophy like at all. But when I was a teenager, I can't remember, I discovered Voltaire's philosophical dictionary, and Voltaire's essay on religion in the philosophical dictionary was a very, very influential work on me, both in terms of how I thought about religion and on me as a writer and as a storyteller, because when Voltaire writes about religion in that, and Voltaire wrote other stuff about religion as well, but this particular piece I'm talking about, the essay on religion in the philosophical dictionary, is written in the form of a first person narrative where Voltaire is describing a dream that he had, where he was contemplating the stars and looking at how vast and majestic the heavens are, and who could fail to recognize that this majesty must be the product of a great deity that made it all, and who could fail to worship such a deity. And while he's contemplating all this and having these very big thoughts, he is visited by basically an angel. He describes it in the essay as a genie, but it's basically meant to be like a spirit, like just kind of something from the other world that comes and visits him and shows him a plane that is decorated with just massive piles of bones. Like there's just one huge heap of bones after another, and it's, as far as the eye can see, just bones, bones, bones piled up. And he leads Voltaire on a tour through all these bones, and all of the bones are representative of people who have been killed in the names of various gods or religious figures, right? So these are all the people that were killed in the name of Moses, and these are all the people that were killed in the name of Muhammad, and these are all the people who were killed in the name of whoever, right? And and the idea is like, yes, look at the majesty of the sky, and look, how yes, of course, have great reverence for nature and have great reverence for whatever being you think created it, but also look at all of the death and destruction that has been caused in the name of the things that these people have thought are responsible for this. I told anybody to kill anybody, and all I preached was love and brotherhood and forgiveness. My commandments, I only had two commandments: love God and love other people as you love yourself. Like those, that's all I wanted people to do: love God and love everybody else. That's it. That's the beginning and end of the religion that I brought. And Voltaire says, well, if that's true, then you are my God too. And then he wakes up from the dream and he feels a great peace. And so that was very, that was very influential on my thinking as a young person about religion and about its proper place and the true nature of it. And it was also influential on me as a writer because I realized you can use narrative to express ideas. Like instead of just writing an essay where you just, you know, um, you articulate your thoughts about something in a direct way, you can do it in the form of a story. You can do it in the form of a dialogue. And of course, this used to be done frequently. Like the piece that got Galileo in trouble with the church was a dialogue between two characters talking about things. It wasn't just Galileo writing out his thoughts, in like a monologue. It was characters talking about it. And so but so I realized I could do that too if I wanted to. And I've written pieces that were like that, where I even wrote a piece. um I think it might have been after my pap died, where I wrote a piece that was very, very closely modeled on the Voltaire essay, on the Voltaire religion essay. It was the same sort of thing where I was having a dream, and I was, being led through a thing by somebody. It was, so that it was a very influential piece on me philosophically, and and in terms of my writing as well. So I would definitely say Voltaire, and also we read Candide in college, and I loved Candide. I thought Candide was great too. So philosopher is definitely Voltaire, and favorite philosophical work is Voltaire's Religion essay from the Philosophical Dictionary. Um, Jim Baker, it's not easy for me to come up with a question for you. First of all, and most importantly, I have the utmost confidence in my own opinions about any given topic. So when I do post a question, it's not because I'm hoping to be enlightened by your dazzling brilliance, sorry, but it's more about trying to find a topic that would prove interesting to the public at large on question night. To that end, for this week, let me ask, do you prefer blonde, brunette, or redhead? Um, in my mind, I do not have a preference. But if I were to take a survey of my history, of people that I have either been in relationships with or wanted to be in relationships with, and had feelings for, I think historically speaking, I tend to prefer brunettes, um, of many shades. Like not just like dark-haired brunettes, but light-haired brunette, like light brown, bordering on blonde, sometimes bordering on red, sandy hair kind of thing. It's like, what is that, brunette, or is that, but across the range of brown-haired girls, from the very light to the very dark. That seems to be, even though I never thought of it as a conscious preference, and I've never, and like, I think those kind of, like, I think it's kind of silly to even make that, to make a statement like that and say, I prefer blondes. Like, really? Okay. But historically speaking, I think I would have to say the facts seem to indicate that I have a preference, willful or not, for brunettes of various shades, let's say. Yeah. So there you go. Now you know. Um, General Contact Unit Problem Child says, do you think the West establishing non-exploitive relations with the rest of the world would require us to give up goods we currently acquire via the exploitation of workers in the global South, coffee, chocolate, tropical fruit, etc.? If yes, is it a good idea to be honest about that when trying to recruit people to the left? Thought Slime made a vid where they laid out what he thinks a just society would be like. He said people who live in the global North, as he does, may have to give up stuff like coffee or chocolate if we stop exploiting the rest of the world. So virtually the only thing I drink is orange cordial. Even when I want to get drunk, I just put vodka in it. If you told me I could create a just world, I just had to give up my cordial, I don't know if I do the right thing. And like, I'm a socialist who already agrees with him that fruit pickers in Latin America are horribly exploited. How does he expect more moderate people to react to calls for such sacrifices? Well, and see, I think that's the main reason why a lot of people who are aware that that would be one of the consequences, um, just don't mention it, right? I think there is a fantasy, And sometimes sometimes the people don't know it's a fantasy, and other times I think people know better, but they allow this fantasy to be perpetuated among people who, are maybe further to the left, or have, feelings about, we need to fundamentally change society. We need to have, a revolution and overthrow the government, but there's sort of a conceit that, well, once all the difficult stuff is over, once the dust has settled, things for most people probably wouldn't be all that different, you know. And I don't think that would be true. And I think a lot of people, a lot of a lot of people who are more thoughtful and knowledgeable about it would say that that's not true either. And yeah, that's not a message that is very attractive. And so from a public relations standpoint, and a recruitment standpoint, it doesn't. I mean, it makes sense to me that they would not want to lead with that, or encourage exploration of those kinds of consequences. Um, and that's also one of the reasons why I I'm I don't I don't really support those kinds of measures. Even in theory, like I would much rather like I would much rather find a way to engage with these other countries in ways that are not exploitative. Like, is it inconceivable that we could find a way to trade for coffee and chocolate in ways that don't exploit the workers? Is it inconceivable that we could use our influence on the global stage to encourage other countries to treat their workers better, and that we, in our trade relations with them, could treat them better? Like, is there no way to have trade for these goods that is other than the way it is now? Like, and I would be much more apt to say, let's try that first before we say, okay, sorry, it's unethical, no more coffee, right? Can we try to find a more ethical way of doing it? Yeah. So, but no, I don't think they expect more moderate people to react very well to it, which is why they don't tell them. Next question is from Matt Lorty, who says, "Hi, Steve. I just finished reading Dark Money by Jane Mayer, and I just want to say, fuck the Koch brothers, fuck billionaires, and fuck capitalism. Anyway, in lighter news, what did you think of Spider-Man No Way Home? Will you give us a video review of it like you did for the previous movies? Kind of shocked that it hasn't happened yet, given that it's the biggest MCU offering since Endgame, at least in my opinion. Stay safe in the land of the billionaires sociopaths, Steve, my man." Well, thank you very much. I don't have a plan right now to do a video review of Spider-Man No Way Home, just because it I don't have time. um and so I don't expect I'll be doing. I may do a video essay if I can come up with an angle and that I think would make a good video essay. I might do one about the Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home trilogy, if I can think of something meaningful to say that is like a coherent thesis about all three movies. I might do something like that, because I love the MCU Spider-Man movies, and I really, really liked No Way Home. I think No Way Home was the best of them. And it's one of my favorite Marvel movies, period, at the moment. Like, I was really, really impressed by it. I really liked it a lot. One of my favorite Spider-Man movies. I think I would probably rate it maybe third place, maybe fourth place. It depends. I would put it. I mean, it doesn't. Nothing touches Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is still, light years ahead of anything else. And then after Spider-Man 2 would be Into the Spider-Verse, and then No Way Home might come in behind that one, or it might come in behind the first Spider-Man, the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man. That might be 3, and then No Way Home might be 4. But it's really high. Like, it's I really, really liked it a lot. And it was the most reminiscent of like classic 1960s comic book Spider-Man. It's the closest that the Tom Holland Spidey has felt to like the classic 1960s Spider-Man comic, which is my favorite version of Spidey. And, I've really, really liked the Tom Holland version up to this point. I thought Homecoming and Far From Home were both terrific. But when you start to make him feel like a classic Silver Age Spider-Man, that really, really gets me. So I liked it a lot. Like I enjoyed it a lot. But so will I be doing just a straight movie review video of it? Probably not. But I expect at some point, if I can come up with an idea for something, I would really like to do a video essay about all three of those movies. But I'm not sure what that'll be or when that'll be out. Dana, the lovely woman who doesn't swear on camera, but off camera. Wow. Anyway, Dana says, things suck in a lot of ways right now, Steve. What's good with you? What are you happy about? What are you looking forward to? I'm happy about Peacemaker. Peacemaker has been great so far. There's a Bob's Burgers movie coming out later this year. I'm happy about that. I knew that I was planning on going to the theater to see the Batman movie, and I'm still going to do that. And that'll almost definitely be the next movie I go out to a theater to see. Cause I mean, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. I'm not going out to the theater for just any old fucking reason. I went to see Spider-Man. I will go to see Batman. And I think I might actually go see the Bob's Burgers movie because I'm excited about that. So I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to recording our podcast together tomorrow, or Sunday, I should say, not tomorrow. Don't panic. Sunday. Not so much looking forward to watching Bad Boys for the movie podcast, but looking forward to talking about it with Jason on Sunday. Looking forward to recording Ensign's Log with you and Jason. I always look forward to that every 2 weeks. Tomorrow's cheat day, so I'm looking forward to sort of taking leave of my vegetarianism for a day. Looking forward to the weekend in general because I don't have to work out. I got all my workouts done. Friday is always a great day because I work out every morning, Monday through Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday, I completely take off and don't exercise and don't, sometimes if the weather's nice, I might go out for a walk or something, but like just for pleasure, not, for exercise. So I'm looking forward to having a nice relaxing weekend. And yeah, those are the things that I'm looking forward to and that make me happy. Thank you for asking. Science Pundit says, hey, Steve, I would love to ask you what sort of doomsday story you would write, perhaps a future AKA. But given that Superman and Lois seems to be going in that direction, let's suppose you've been hired as a writer for Superman and Lois, and they've just killed off Superman. Given the existing characters and storylines, where do you take the story? Thanks. Well, the obvious way to go is that Jordan becomes Superboy. I mean, I think that's what you would have to do. If they killed off Superman, first of all, I wouldn't just bring him right back. That feels like cheating. Like, I feel like death should stick. So if they killed Superman and then I inherited the show, I would not be bringing back Superman. I would reorient the show to focus on Lois and also focus on, I mean, like the show would not, Jordan would not become the lead character. At that point, Lois would become the lead character, like the sole lead character of the show. But as far as how the characters would develop after that, I think you have to start moving Jordan into a more hero-centered role. I think it should still be a superhero show. And I think, Jordan would continue to develop his powers and we could get stories out of that, of, new powers developing, he learning how to fly and learning how to control his abilities better, and him becoming a hero, eventually putting on the tights and becoming Superboy. Like, that's where I think the show would have to go at that point. And that's where I would start to take it. Not right away. Like, he wouldn't be Superboy the very next episode after his dad's funeral, but that would be the direction I would start moving things in for sure. Yeah. And as for the other character, I mean, I would have to come up with stuff for everybody. And I don't know off the top of my head, like what I would do with everybody on the show, but I know that would be my main creative direction. to try and start moving Jordan into kind of a Superboy role. Stephen Sutton. This happened today. Picture the scene. It's an icy morning in the city of Bath. I'm walking to work, head down, when I pass by the Walcott Street Market being set up for Friday trading. On one of the stands is a selection of knickknacks, ornaments, real tat that even Quark wouldn't try and unload on you. On this table, in prominent position, is a 1980s era gold-rimmed commemorative plate of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. It's not a wedding plate, just a bog standard couple's photo memorialized onto fine china. This thing has fucked with my mind all day, and I can't let it go. £10 it cost. I guess my questions are, what was going through this trader's mind when he decided to put this on his stand, and why did it take all my willpower to not buy it? I can kind of understand why you would be attracted to buying it. Like, there are some things that when you see them are just so tacky and so inexplicable, because like you're asking yourself, like, why would he even put this out? That you feel drawn to it. Like I'm the same way. There's certain things that it's like a black velvet Elvis painting or so. It's like, what? Like what? It's just the tackiness of it that draws you in. So I can kind of relate to that. As for why would the guy put it out to begin with? Well, with all of the Prince Andrew scandals that were referenced in an earlier question, maybe he's trying to, capture the zeitgeist and make £10 for himself and unload this plate that he's obviously had for a while. And, I guess nobody on eBay has bitten on it. And he's like, fuck it, I'll put it out and setting up at my stand at the market and see if somebody wants to buy it there. I don't know. He's trying to strike while the iron is hot, hoping that some guy like you will come along and be like, yeah, sure, I'll take it. Maybe that's where his head's at. Joe McClory, yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of the Biden administration. Looking back, it's hard not to be disappointed in the failure to make real progress toward any of his already tepid progressive agenda, but still it's hard not to be so glad that we didn't continue our rapid plunge into neo-fascism. Needless to say, I have mixed feelings on year 1 of Biden. Would you mind sharing your opinion on your biggest Biden disappointment, but also explaining how glad you are that we didn't let Clown Franco continue to be dictator of the U.S. Yeah. I mean, there have been disappointments, but there haven't been, in terms of disappointments that I think are fair to tie directly to Biden, probably some of the pandemic response, I think, and the Biden administration's pandemic response has been so much better than the Trump administration. Like, I'm not trying to draw any kind of an equivalence at all. Biden's response to the pandemic, even at its worst, has been immeasurably better than Trump's was. So I'm not trying to do this, well, both parties are bad stuff, because I think that's horseshit. One party is clearly a lot better than the other, and it's the Democrats. And, so the Biden response has been a lot better than Trump's. But I think the fact that the Biden administration has been pushing vaccines, I think is great and very important. And I hope everybody gets vaccinated. I've been vaccinated and boosted, and hope everybody watching this who has been able to has done so or is planning to do so. But by pushing vaccines at the exclusion of everything else, and by kind of telling people, well, if everybody gets vaccinated, then everybody will be okay, which isn't really true. I feel like they've done a disservice to everybody, and they've created unrealistic expectations in the minds of people, and they have failed to do things that they probably should have done from day one, like try to get affordable, quick tests in people's hands, and pass more economic support for people. and, send out more stimulus checks and make it easier for parents to stay home with their kids, and, increase funding to schools who are still struggling mightily with COVID related issues, and more support for healthcare workers and hospitals that are still struggling mightily with COVID related issues. There's a lot of stuff that I think Biden, in an executive capacity, distributing masks more widely. Like, he just announced last week that they're going to start distributing N95 masks from the federal stockpile. Well, I feel like you probably should have been doing that a while ago, Joe. I mean, it's great that you're doing it now. Better late than never. But, like, and just like with the testing thing, we're going to set up a website so people can request free COVID tests, and you can go to the post office, and the post office will deliver COVID tests to your house. That's great. Why weren't you doing this 6 months ago? Why weren't you doing this a year ago? Like, so that kind of stuff, which doesn't necessarily require an act of Congress to get started. I can lay that at Biden's feet and say, you or your administration should have done better at this. But other things that are disappointing about the first year, like what just happened with, the Senate failing to change the filibuster and pass voter rights protections, like, that's incredibly disappointing and upsetting. But I don't think I can blame Joe Biden for that. It's not Joe Biden's fault that the Democrats have a 1-vote majority in the Senate, and 2 of the Democrats are shitheels who don't want to change the filibuster rule even to pass voter protection. Like, that's not Joe Biden's fault. Joe Manchin is not Joe Biden's fault. Kyrsten Sinema is not Joe Biden's fault. So I don't blame Biden for the failures of those legislative efforts. But I do think it's fair to blame him for some of the pandemic stuff that I was talking about. But yeah, it's still way better than if Trump was in office. Like, it's not even, the thought never even crosses my mind. Even on days when I'm extremely frustrated with Joe, I'm never like, oh man, might as well have just reelected Trump. Like, no. Not even close. Not even close. Yeah, no. But yeah, it's been a disappointing year, but in a lot of ways, given how things were after the election, a lot of those disappointments were pretty inevitable. Like, none of it is terribly unexpected. Like I said earlier with the Manchin and cinema stuff, like, none of that is surprising. It's completely within character for them, but it's still disappointing, and it's still upsetting. Isaiah Taylor. So, Steve, you're a fan of make-believe, Steve and Stuffy. But suppose you are a minority individual who then pretends that you are the president of your own country. You look on the news and you see the world, the United States, falling apart. You live in Florida, where a certain Republican governor wants to pass a bunch of laws that crack down on voting, teaching history in schools, and public expression. You also see what happened on January 6th. Being autistic, you fear being a disabled minority, and a male puts a target on your back. The citizens of your country want you, the president, to draft a military budget to counter the white nationalist fascist threat. Would you invest in fighter jets, warships, or tanks? Of course, you can't get any of these products, but again, this is your imagination. I have been of late listening to books on the idea that America is close to a civil war. Should I buy a gun for self-defense? Thoughts? I mean, look, Isaiah, I would never tell anybody to buy a gun. I don't think anybody should buy a gun for any reason. I think there are too many guns as it is. And I don't think adding more guns to the situation helps anybody, including the person who has the gun. But I'm not your dad, and I'm, it's not for me to tell you what to do. So if you feel like you would be safer with a gun and you're comfortable with that decision, then, I can't stop you. Yeah, I think it's clear I don't think you should, but it's not up to me. It's up to you. And as for what I would I invest in fighter jets, warships, or tanks? You got to go with fighter jets, man. Warships and tanks, For a land war? I mean, tanks maybe, but warships? No, I don't think so. I mean, I maybe have a couple around, like I don't want to be completely, without warships, but no, I'm going to get those fighter jets. Death from above, baby. That's how you win the modern American Civil War, is death from above. If the North had had fighter jets and they could have just bombed the South into the fucking Stone Age, I mean, the war would have been over in 15 minutes. Oh my God, can you imagine General Sherman in charge of a squadron of like fighter jets? And instead of, the march to the sea, he just flies over South Carolina and Georgia and just bombs every goddamn thing in sight and kills every last one of those fucking slave-owning motherfuckers and reduces every last plantation to a pile of fucking splinters from the sky? Fighter jets. I would get the fighter jets. Scott P. Hey, Steve, I was recently watching the MST3K episode Kitten with a Whip and found myself mostly enjoying the movie in its own right. It definitely has a heaping helping of 1960s cheesiness and cliches that hold it back from its potential, but Anne Margaret and John Forsythe are fun to watch while carrying the movie on their backs. It had me wondering, are there any bad movies from MST3K or elsewhere that you found enjoyable despite their flaws? If so, what changes do you think would need to happen for them to be considered good? Oh man, there are so many. Some of my favorite movies to watch are terrible movies. And some of them are Mystery Science Theater episodes. Space Mutiny, I think, in my mind, has taken on almost a life of its own. I mean, I've watched Space Mutiny, the MST3K episode, more times than I can count. And I've also watched the movie on its own, like without the MST3K version. And it's pretty fun that way too. Because it's awful. Like it's mind-bogglingly awful in a really funny, entertaining way. My favorite movie to watch that is bad, but that I find enjoyable is The Room. I'm not going to watch it tonight because I have other stuff to do and other stuff to watch, but I could watch The Room anytime. Like The Room is one of those movies that, like, if somebody says, "Hey, Steve, you feel like watching The Room?" Yes, absolutely. Let's watch The Room, because I know I'm going to have a good time. I know I'm going to laugh, and I'm probably going to notice something that I haven't noticed before because it's that kind of a movie. And the thing I notice is going to be something where I'm just thinking like, what the fuck? Like, because it's bad in a fascinating way. And I mean, what changes do I think would be needed to make it good? Like, I have no idea. I don't know if I would want to make it good. Like, I don't know if I want The Room to be a good movie. I don't know if I want Roadhouse to be a good movie. Like, Roadhouse is another one where it's like, damn, this is such a great bad movie. Like, I don't know if I'd want to make it a good movie. I like it being bad in the way that it is bad. And ditto for Space Mutiny. Like, I just, and Manos, the Hands of Fate is another one, like a classic MST3K episode that you can watch on its own. And it's just fascinating. It's like, how did this get made? Where does this come from? What, I just watched a couple of days ago, for the first time in forever, I watched the movie No Holds Barred, which was the first starring vehicle for Hulk Hogan. That, again, in a similar vein to The Room, like it's bad in a way that you're just like, how does this exist? Like, what decisions led to this being on screen? It's fascinating and baffling and hilarious. So, I mean, I don't know if I'd want to make them good movies. I like them the way they are, because yeah, they're terrible, but they're terrible in a really, really entertaining way. Russell says, "Good evening, Steve. Since our last Q&A, we lost 3 other great, and I mean great, stars. Michael Lee Aday, aka the Meatloaf Singer, the Meatloaf Singer, Louis Anderson, and Bob Saget. Damn, 2022 is not being very kind. I just wanted to acknowledge their passing." So, on to the Q&A. I was super stoked to learn you are a huge fan of the TV series The Incredible Hulk. And while the show could be at times very campy, it was also extremely good. For example, the pilot, which I mentioned previously, and Married. some of the best writing for a dramatic TV series. So my question is, how would you have liked the show to have ended? Me personally, I always wanted McGee to learn the truth and realize in part it was his snooping around that caused that fire. And yes, I was hopeful of a cure. Unfortunately, two of my favorite shows never got real closure, this one and Quantum Leap. Anyways, that's it for now. Hopefully in 2 weeks I may discuss Cobra Kai. See you later today, Steve. Well, yeah, I would love to talk about Cobra Kai. So if you have Cobra Kai questions for next time, you go ahead and drop one of those in next time. They kind of did an ending for the Incredible Hulk with the last of the TV movies, the death of the Incredible Hulk, which ended with, spoiler alert, the death of the Incredible Hulk. Although that only wound up being the last one because unfortunately Bill Bixby died a few years later and they never got to make another one. They had planned to do another Incredible Hulk movie where he came back, but it never happened. Bill Bixby got cancer and passed away, unfortunately. So it sort of ended up being the last one, but it wasn't intended to be the last one. And it's not a very satisfying conclusion. If they had given the TV series a proper final episode, something like, not necessarily a cure maybe, but Banner coming to finding peace and learning to control the Hulk, you know, so he's not cured. Like he doesn't go through some kind of reverse gamma procedure that takes the Hulk away from him, but he finds a kind of peace so that he's not always turning into the Hulk. And that's kind of where he is at the beginning of the first TV movie, The Incredible Hulk Returns, or The Return of the Incredible Hulk, whichever one. The one with Thor. The first Hulk TV movie that they made in the late 80s after the TV show had been off for a while. At the start of that movie, he is living and working, obviously under an assumed name, like he's still sort of on the run, but he has found a place that he can stay for a long time. He's found a job under an assumed name, working as a scientist, and he's in a relationship with a woman, and he hasn't turned into the Hulk for years at that point. So I would have loved for the TV show to end sort of with him at the beginning of that process, with hope, with like a promise for a better, more peaceful future where the Hulk would still be with him. The Hulk would not, he would not be free of it, but he would be at peace with it, and he could live as himself and not be constantly turning into Hulk. That I think would be a more appropriate ending for the series, or something like that would have been nice, I think. Here's one from Steve. Hey, Steve. I get things look kind of grim for the midterms, but I got to be real. The defeatism I see on Twitter and Reddit, like the GOP winning as a foregone conclusion, is getting tiring. The race hasn't been run yet, and the way to stop the Republicans is by organizing like crazy. We don't need 60 seats in the Senate. We only need to win 2 or 3. Am I crazy for saying we need to have a tiny amount of optimism? What do you think? No, I agree with you completely. Optimism and motivation are very important. Now, I hate the fatalism too. I cannot stand these smug progressives who are like, oh, the Democrats are just going to blow it. Why even stop supporting the Democrats? Stop giving the Democrats money. Stop voting for the Democrats. It's not going to make any difference. That kind of fatalism and defeatism drives me up a fucking wall because nothing is going to change that way. That will not change anything. I get that the Democrats are frustrating. I get that the Democrats are disappointing. I get that the Democratic Party could fuck up a wet dream. I've said that many times, and I am a registered Democrat, right? I get all of that frustration with the party. It's completely warranted. But if you give up, or if you start acting like the Democrats are just as bad as the Republicans, what you're going to get is decades of Republican control of this country, even more so than they already have, which is not acceptable to me. I will not allow that to happen without a fight, and I don't think anybody else should either. So, and it is not a foregone conclusion. You're right. The Democrats need to hold the seats they have and pick up a couple more in the Senate, and then next year they can go ahead and nuke the filibuster and pass voting rights reform and tell Cinema and Manchin to go fuck themselves and say, go ahead and vote with the fucking Republicans to protect the filibuster if that's what you want, you pieces of shit. We don't need you. And if they're the only ones holding back a more ambitious Build Back Better plan and a more ambitious social spending plan, then do that without them too. Fuck them. And all we need to do that is pick up 2 or 3 more seats and we can tell them to go to hell. And that is not impossible. Like, so yeah, I think there needs to be optimism and there needs to be motivation. We can do this. And just throwing up your hands and saying, why even bother? The Republicans are going to win anyway. That's fatalist and defeatist, and fuck that. Fuck that. I'm completely on your side with that. And finally, last question from Siamak, who is now unapologetically late. Boy, just brazen. Good day, Steve. How you doing? I'm going to take my normal quasi-political question in a different direction. The last 2 weeks, with all the setbacks, have been incredibly disheartening, such that it became mentally unhealthy for me to follow the news as much. I stepped away and now try to keep up, but not read everything all the time. I'll get back to it, but needed a break. My question is, do you ever find yourself burned out or destroyed by anxiety related to politics? And how do you manage that for yourself and your health? Thanks and have a great weekend. Yes, I do. And I manage it by doing pretty much exactly the same thing that you're doing. I just step away from it. I just stop paying as close attention to it for a little while. You know, I don't watch every single fucking thing, you know, that comes up on Twitter. I don't read every article. I just sort of pull back because I feel like I have to sometimes because it gets depressing, you know? Yeah, absolutely. That happens to me. And it's not, with me, it's not anxiety. Like, I don't feel anxiety, but I do feel disappointment and maybe like a sense of futility, you know, probably not unlike a lot of those people that I was talking about in the previous question that are very fatalistic and defeatist. The difference is I don't let that become who I am. Like, I don't give into that and say, yeah, fuck it, everything's fucked, who cares? Like, that's not, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. But I have those feelings of, oh my fucking God, like I can't deal with this right now. I need to take a few steps back. I need to stop. I need to watch something silly on TV. I need to go outside and go for a walk. I need to exercise. I need to work on something that is not, politically related. I need to disengage from it for a short time, and then I can come back to it and pay more attention again. But yeah, just the same as you're saying you need to do. Just need to take a break sometimes. That's exactly how I manage it. And I'm glad that you're able to do that too, because yeah, it gets overwhelming and it gets discouraging and depressing. But you have to take a step back, you have to rest up, and then you have to jump back in. That's the only thing you can do. So anyway, that's it for the patron and member questions. And now I turn, my friends, my children. I don't know why I'm saying that. It's creepy, isn't it? I turn to the live chat and let's see what everybody has to say. We'll spend the remainder of the show hanging out with everybody in the live chat. So how is everybody? I can get rid of my pinned message now because I am now paying attention to the chat. And the first question I see is from Deralta Trekkie, who says, I got The Lost World on DVD for Christmas. The 2000s shows with, of course, an amazing Amazon in a little dress. Do you think this would fly today? The Amazon in the little dress? Yeah, you might want to dress her a little bit more. I have not watched that show, so I can't speak to it. But I would imagine today you would want, a slightly less obviously male gazy costume, I would guess. Um, yeah, CMAC, but you know, the patron questions end with a downer, but then we have, you know, probably at this point another 40 minutes of questions with the live chat, and hopefully it'll be more upbeat. So think of something happy to ask me. God damn it. Um, and I saw Dana asked, what's the collab that might be in the works with Jesse, or have you signed an NDA? No, there's no NDA. I was one of my commissions actually um, was someone who offered to pay me and Jesse to do a video together about an episode of Star Trek Enterprise that we may still do something together on. But I talked to Jessie about it, and she had already planned on doing a video about this particular episode herself. And I think she told me she had already, like, the video was done, like she had already shot it and everything. She was just waiting to release it. So she has already kind of done her thing on this episode, and I still need to go back and watch the episode and see if I even have an angle on it that I would be able to do. So if we can figure something out about that episode between the two of us that we think we could work on together and do something worth doing, then, you know, I think we're both still really open to doing that. But at the moment, I'm still sort of waiting to figure out where I'm coming from on it. But that's what that collab was going to be. Carlisle the Cinephile asks, what was your favorite scene in No Way Home? Favorite scene in No Way Home. I really like Toby's pep talk to Andrew when he keeps telling him he's amazing. I like let me see. I like the scene between Andrew and Electro, where Electro tells him that he thought Spider-Man would be black, and Andrew seems genuinely sorry, you know, like, and he's like, "Oh man, I'm sorry," you know, yeah. I like the last scene between Peter and Aunt May. I like the last scene between Peter and Happy. I like the last scene between Peter and Ned and MJ. So yeah, there a lot. Yeah, 255 AD is the episode is Cogenitor. Yeah. Super chat from Iceblade65. Hey, Steve, I run a 3D printer farm making things, mainly Nerf stuff. Is there something you would like to see printed and added to your collection? No, not really. But thanks for the offer, and thank you for the super chat. I can't really think of anything. Here's a member message from Kirok 2011. He says, "Hey Steve, I can't praise the pilot or Married from The Incredible Hulk enough. In fact, did you know Mariette Hartley won an Emmy for her role in that episode? And yes, best of dramatic series ever I cry." Yeah, Married is a really good episode, and yes, I did know that Mariette Hartley won an Emmy, and she was fantastic in it. And it's a really good episode. It's a really good episode. And a super chat from Misha, who says, "Greetings. Wanted to say thank you for your take on disabilities and pointing out we are perfectly able to take care of ourselves just fine." Well, you're welcome, and thank you, and thank you to the disabled people in my life who taught me that and showed me that, you know, and helped me get past any sort of paternalistic, well-meaning, condescending assumptions I once had about people with disabilities, you know, because I mean, that was something that I sort of had to get over too. But I'm glad you liked that video. I'm glad you liked that video. Drawn to Trekkie, no, I have not watched that. I have not watched Allison Pregler's video about that episode yet. I saw that had been posted, but I have not watched that episode yet. But I think I'm going to at some point soon. Kemp says, Steve, when Dana gets tired of Deep Space Nine, can we watch The Secret Diary of Desmond P. Pfeiffer? All of the episodes are on YouTube. If Dana ever taps out from Deep Space Nine, are you saying I should punish her? Are you saying like if she gives up on Deep Space Nine, I should punish her by forcing her to watch The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer, one of the most infamously awful sitcoms ever produced? That is not on the docket at the moment. No. Um, 255 AD says, you said you don't like made up language in sci-fi. What if it's relevant to the story, like the anti-possessive language or slang of the people on Inaris? Um, I don't know if that annoyed me because of the made up language part or if it annoyed me just because the people on Inaris annoyed me. But that was not my favorite part of that book. Like I kind of the going so far out of their way to avoid using any possessive language. That's one of the things in that book that made me go like this, like, oh fuck. Get over yourself. Like, I get that it was world building and it's like, this is the way they think and this is the way. But like I said, I don't know if it annoyed me for that, for, the made up language reason, or if it annoyed me because I just found the people of Inaris annoying. But either way, it was not my favorite part of the book. Super chat from Keurig 2011 says, now my Trek question. I recently watched TNG Ship in a Bottle. And boy, is it just me, or does Picard sound like a moron when he asks Data who all is real? No, I think that's a reasonable question. Ship in the Bottle is the one where where Hollow Moriarty kind of takes control of the Enterprise and he traps Picard and Data in the holodeck within the holodeck. So they think they're out of the holodeck, but they're actually still in the holodeck. I think that's a reasonable question for Picard to ask because they're not exactly sure at what point they entered the simulation and at what point they were still on the real Enterprise. I don't think that makes him sound like a moron. Super chat from Stephen Hart says, Steve, on the subject of Peacemaker, I can't believe that John Cena is my favorite DC actor at the moment. It's insane that he's so funny. Yeah, apparently that was one of the things that got James Gunn interested in doing the show, is that while they were shooting his Suicide Squad movie, he was really impressed with Cena. And he was like, I want to do more with this character, with this guy playing him. And now we have Peacemaker. And so far it's been fantastic. So yeah, and Cena has been great. He is a really, really good comic actor and also kind of a serious actor at times with that character. Like he plays that kind of character, that type really, really well. And I've been very impressed with him in Peacemaker so far. And a super chat from Red Spiral Ray says, Steve, I recently binged Westworld, a really good show with some stumbles. Have you seen it? And what was your opinion? I have not watched Westworld, so I cannot tell you what I think because I have not had a chance to watch it yet. All right. I saw that Dana was posting stuff, but I was answering super chats. Let me go back and see what I've missed, what Dana has been saying. Oh, yeah, I didn't say I was looking forward to your live stream. I was gonna promote your live stream at the end of the show when I do my plugs and stuff. If you'll notice, I put a link to your live stream in the description of this video, not just a link to your channel, but a link to the actual live stream. So if everybody wants to watch Dana's live stream tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern on her channel, not only is her channel linked in the video description of this live stream that you're watching right now, but there's also a link to her live stream. So you can go to it and set a reminder so you won't miss it when it comes out tomorrow. So there. And yes, of course, I am very much looking forward to it. And if I neglected to say I was looking forward to it when answering your question, I apologize. But I'm very much looking forward to it. Drew out to Trek, he says, we all know that you and me are not Zack Snyder's biggest fans, but do you think that his style and vision could work for a Death and Return of Superman movie? No. No, I don't. Because Death and Return of Superman still shouldn't be fatalistic and pessimistic and bleak and fascist. Super chat from Oasis, who says, during the Odo tribute video, you mentioned wanting to do an Odo Quark video. Are there any plans to put that up for a vote anytime soon? You know what? Thank you for reminding me. I may have forgotten about that. I should add that to the topics list of the next poll. That's a good idea. I'll make sure that that's on my list of potential future topics, and I will put that the next month's poll, I suppose, because the new poll is already up. But yeah, that's I need to get on that because you're right. I did say I wanted to do that, and now that I think about it, yeah, an Odo Quark video would be a hell of a lot of fun. So I will add that to the list. Thank you very much for reminding me. Super chat from Kurek 2011. Sorry to play devil's advocate, but Picard, Data, and Barclay only enter the holodeck once. By omission, Picard, once he realized he was trapped on the holodeck, he should have known that himself, Data, and Barclay were real. Well, maybe he was doing that so that the audience would know who was real. You know, he's a character on a TV show. So he asks Data which one of them is real so the audience can get it straight. So Data can say, "Well, it's me, you, and Barclay," right? So, you know, I can't fault him for that. Super chat from Carlisle the Cinephile, who says one of my favorite moments was when, oh, I love this one too, man. I love this one too. When Toby is reunited with Doc Ock and he says, "You're all grown up." As someone who grew up with Raimi's movies, I felt like he was talking to me in my generation. My favorite part of that interaction, well, yes, Doc Ock says, "You're all grown up." I love when he asks Peter, "How are you?" And Peter's response to him is trying to do better. God. Like I said, Spider-Man 2 is by a million miles. Spider-Man 2 is my favorite Spider-Man movie. It's one of my favorite superhero movies, period. I think it is a masterpiece. So those moments between Toby and Doc Ock in the new one were fantastic, and I loved that they were treated as characters. It wasn't just fan service. It wasn't just Easter eggs and going, "Remember this, remember this, remember this." Like, it actually had meaning within the story that was being told there. You know, like, even if you hadn't seen Spider-Man 2, you would still get that there was significance here. You know, so I thought that was tremendous. Super chat from Red Spiral Ray. Could Richard Donner have made a good Death of Superman film with Christopher Reeve with the usage of today's film styles and technology? Oh, yeah, come on, of course. I think, yeah. I mean, is it a given? No. I mean, it's not automatic that it would have been a good movie, but yeah, I think the potential was definitely there for Richard Donner and Christopher Reeve to make a Death and Return of Superman movie, for sure. Absolutely. Especially with that version of Superman, because there was such goodwill surrounding him. Like, that was such a beloved version of the character and such a great version of the character. To do that story with that Superman, with that director who clearly got the material and understood how to make that character work, yeah, that could have been tremendous. Absolutely. Some random geek with a member message. How is Biden not fighting with his party members in the Senate, not on him? That is why we should have voted for Biden over Bernie. Biden's a party man. Well, I don't know how, but he has been speaking to Cinema and Manchin. He's been meeting with them and negotiating with them a lot over these past few weeks. Like, how is him? How I don't. Who's to say if he was, you know, like going on TV every night and motherfucking them, that would make any difference? You know, like, I really don't think that either one of them was going to budge, regardless of what Biden said or what anybody said. I don't blame Biden for that. I feel like Biden has actually put forth an effort to try and change this, to try and make a difference with this, and it just didn't work. I don't think that's Biden's fault. Super chat from Fadeaway X. Your take on 300 rustled my jimmies. Spartans were morally vile, and Snyder is usually bad, but Miller is a legend that expertly wove history and art. Well, I mean, the Spartans were morally vile, but were they morally vile in that movie? Like, were we supposed to perceive them as morally vile, or were we supposed to perceive them as the heroes? See, that's my problem with it. I mean, I don't think it's a defense of the movie to say, well, in real life, the Spartans were bastards. I'm okay. But why were they presented as the good guys in the movie? And, you know, a movie that celebrates real life fascists is still a fascist movie. So, Another super chat from Kirak 2011 says Superman the movie 1978 minus the time travel thing is the flawless movie. Close second is the pilot of the Incredible Hulk, which was released in select theaters. I don't really mind the time travel. If I were going to change anything about the original Superman, um, it wouldn't be the time travel thing. It would be the Krypton stuff at the beginning. I would just lop that off with an axe. Like I would just lose all of that. That's the only change I would make to the first Christopher Reeve Superman. I think the time travel ending is fine. The Krypton stuff I would lose completely. Just we see Marlon Brando when Clark throws the crystal and makes the Fortress of Solitude. Like we don't need any of the Krypton stuff. We can get all the exposition that we need there in the Fortress. I disagree with you about Batman 8. I'm not a big fan of Batman 89. I like Batman 89 for nostalgia purposes. Like I can watch it and enjoy it. And I do enjoy parts of it. Like I think Michael Keaton is a great Batman and a really great Bruce Wayne. But as a movie, I just don't think Batman 89 is very good. I think Batman Returns is actually a better movie than Batman 89. John Burns with a super chat says, true or false, age of exploration due to inequality. I'm not sure what you're referring to there. You mean like the age of exploration, like like Columbus and, you know, the great explorers and stuff? Was that due to inequality? I don't know. I mean, I think it certainly resulted in inequality with the way the people of the New World were treated. Liam Foley asks an interesting question. Who would be my ideal person to direct a Superman movie? I don't know. I mean, if she could get a good script, I mean, I might be willing to let Patty Jenkins take a crack at it. I mean, because I thought her Wonder Woman movies have both been good, and the problems with them have not been due to her direction, but have been due to the script. I think she's easily a good enough director to do a hell of a Superman movie. Maybe Ryan Johnson could be good. Yeah, I don't know. Those are the ones that I'm thinking of at the moment, but I'm sure there are better ones too. Oh, CMAC, this is a good one. Strange New Worlds is coming. What's your most outlandish prediction about who this Noonien Singh character is? I mean, she's probably going to be like Khan's granddaughter or great granddaughter or something. I forgot all about that actually until you just mentioned. I forgot all about that character. I don't know. Maybe it'll turn out that she's not related at all. Maybe like Dr. Noonien Sung, who has a name that sounds a lot like Khan Noonien Singh, but is not related to him at all. Maybe the character from Strange New Worlds will just sound like she must be related to Khan, but actually isn't at all. Radical Bacon, the weather is fucking cold, my friend. The weather is fucking cold. That's how the weather is right now. I'm looking at the temperature display on my computer right now. Says it's 19 degrees outside. Fuck that. That's how the weather is. Fuck that. Sarah says, "What are your opinions on Starship Troopers, the movie?" It's good. I like it. It's fine. I wasn't like bowled over by it, but I appreciate it. I think it's okay. And Geralta Trekkie asks, "What about the sequel to Quantum Leap that is currently in the making? What do I think about it?" I'm curious about it. I mean, hopefully it'll be good. I don't know, but hopefully it'll be not bad. John Burns with a super chat says religious edicts, Henry the Navigator, Spain and Portugal, no governmental capital, no 1492, or plundered India, yay Portugal. Why no dictatorships blame? No popes, no Vasco da Gama, ignorant Murica. I don't know what any of that means. I apologize, John. I have no idea what you're talking about. I can't decipher any sort of question or meaning out of any of that. Red Spiral Ray with a super chat. Will there ever be a Superman soundtrack as good as John Williams again? Nothing against Hans Zimmer. I'll tell you what, John Ottman's score for Superman Returns is damn close. I don't think it quite matches Williams's score for Superman the movie, but the Ottman score for Superman Returns is goddamn beautiful. I mean, obviously he uses some of Williams's themes, but he also there's a lot of original stuff in there too. And that's a really good score. It's a really good score. But yeah, I feel like the original John Williams Superman soundtrack is probably the best one. I mean, yeah. Oh God, it's so good. It's such a good score. Kirak 2011 says, LOL and Steve, to quote Jack Nicholson from the 89 Batman, no hard feelings. Why don't we shake hands? Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you what, the scene, maybe my favorite scene in the 89 Batman, is the scene after the Joker kills, Rotelli, I guess was his name, Tony Rotelli, kills him with the joy buzzer, and he's like standing there talking to the guy's charred skeleton. And at the end of it, he like leans in close to the skeleton and he says, "You are a vicious bastard, Rotelli, and I'm glad you're dead." And then he like walks off giggling to himself and repeating that. Like, that's such a great scene. That's such a perfect Joker scene. There's a lot of stuff that Jack Nicholson's Joker does in that movie that's like Jack Nicholson, not really the Joker. But in that scene, that's 100% Joker. When he's walking out, and you can hear him like in the distance, off mic, as he walks out of the room. He's like, I'm glad you're dead. Like, he's cracked himself up so much. That's a really great scene. Oh my God, Madeline, it's -19 Fahrenheit where you are. Yeah. Fuck that weather. And Radical Bacon, yes, I did notice that they reused some of the themes, the music from the Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire spy. Absolutely, I thought that was great. I loved just in general, like the music is a good example of it. But overall, I really loved how No Way Home treated those other versions of Spider-Man with such respect. You know, like they weren't just there to put over the Tom Holland version. I mean, obviously, Tom Holland Spidey was the central character, and the movie is ultimately about him, and that's as it should be, because it's his movie and it's his franchise. But the other Spider-Mans were treated with great respect, and their stories and their character arcs and their supporting characters with the villains coming, like they were all treated with great respect, and they were treated as important characters in this story. They weren't just guests. They weren't just coming in for cameos and fan service and, hey, how you doing? You know, like they were given real importance and depth in the story. And I thought that was great. I loved that. And yeah, and the music was really cool too. Gerald Trekkie says, question concerning the whole Snyder-Whedon dynamic. Am I still allowed to say, dude, although Ray is not a bad actor, he wasn't able to do anything with the role? Well, I mean, I hope you're able to say that, because that's pretty much what I would say. Like, I mean, if Ray Fisher says that he was mistreated by Joss Whedon and he felt disrespected and, you know, and particularly felt disrespected as the only Black actor with a major role in the film, then I believe him and I respect him, and I think he should be taken seriously when he says that. But as far as his performance in the film, either version, the Snyder version or the Whedon theatrical cut, like I wasn't particularly impressed with either the character or his performance in either version. Now, as a human being, I think he's entitled to, you know, to to complain that he was mistreated, and fuck Joss Whedon for treating him that way, and for treating Gal Gadot that way, for treating anybody that he ever treated that way. But I, I mean, I think I said it to people at the time, like, look, I would have cut most of the Cyborg stuff too from the Snyder cut. It's just not good. Like, it's mostly exposition. It's like almost all of Cyborg's big scenes in the Snyder cut are exposition, are him like just extolling backstory or explaining what's going on in the plot. He's not an important character to the story, except as the designated giver of exposition. So, I mean, it sucks that those are most of his scenes, and it sucks that because of that, he gets cut drastically out of the movie in the Whedon version, but I would have cut that shit out too. Don't blame Joss Whedon, blame Zack Snyder for not being able to come up with anything better for you to do in the fucking movie. I mean, blame Joss Whedon for being a dick to you on set, for sure. Blame Joss Whedon for disrespecting you as an actor and as a person. Absolutely. But, I mean, as far as what he had to work with in terms of the story, like, I'm sorry, I would have done the same thing. Oh, Dana, I will be at your live stream the whole time. I will not just visit your live stream. I will be in the chat the entire time. Of course, I'm not going to miss your live stream. I'll be there. I'll be there from beginning to end. Even if you're going to talk about stuff that I don't care about, I will still be there. And yes, Social Justice Alchemy, Some Random Geek. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. or Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern time on the Social Justice Alchemy channel that is linked in the chat there. As Some Random Geek says, a bunch of anarchists and leftists sit around and chat for Social Justice Alchemy at 7 p.m. Universal time, 2 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. So there you go. Social Justice Alchemy. Joe McClory, favorite Hogan movie? Probably No Holds Barred. Although, I mean, Suburban Commando is a hell of a lot of fun to watch. I mean, Hogan's never made a good movie, unless you count Rocky III, that he's in for one scene. But as far as movies that are like Hogan vehicles, it's got to be either No Holds Barred or Suburban Commando. The other ones, like Mr. Nanny and the Three Ninjas one that he was in, like, a lot of those are just like, oh, I don't know if I can even watch it. Santa with Muscles. It's like they get to be bad in a not entertaining way. But No Holds Barred and Suburban Commando are bad in an entertaining way. Because, again, it's like, what the fuck? Like, how does this even exist? Kirak 2011 says, now minus Dean Cain's recent behavior, which I don't want to get into, did you enjoy Lois and Clark? Yeah, I loved Lois and Clark. I still love Lois and Clark. I'm able to sort of separate Dean Cain, the shitty human being, from his performance in the show. I thought Dean Cain was a terrific Clark and a terrific Superman. And I just think it's a shame he didn't internalize anything about the character, apparently. Because he's like the opposite of everything Superman stands for. He's the opposite of everything his version of Superman said. Like the character he played in the show should have, if he had internalized any of that, he would not be half of the shithead that he is. But it just, But yeah, I thought Lois and Clark was a terrific show, and I thought Dean Cain was a terrific Superman. And Kirak 2011 also says, I hated the fact that Joss Whedon butchered Cordy's storyline in Angel. I love Buffy and Angel regardless if Joss was the creator or not. Yeah, me too. I think Buffy and Angel are both terrific shows. I'm a huge fan of Angel. I think Angel was a great show. Obviously Buffy was a great show too. But yeah, the Cordelia storyline in Angel was a mess, and and that sucks. And what Charisma Carpenter has said as far as how she was treated on set and what her working relationship with Joss Whedon was, it sounds horrible, and there's no excuse for a showrunner treating an actor that way. It's terrible. Yeah, Kemp, I am a big fan of Superman and Lois. I love Superman and Lois. I think Tyler Hoechlin is a terrific Superman. big fan of Superman and Lois, and I've enjoyed the new season so far. We're only 3 episodes in at this point, but I've or is it 2 episodes? I don't know. However many episodes we're in at this point, but I've enjoyed it so far. Deralta Trekkie says, question concerning your latest MacGyver review. Will you do other ones? What do you think about the episode The Visitor, where Mac meets aliens? Oh, yeah, I definitely want to do other MacGyver videos. Yeah, I have ideas for 2 more at this point. And I'll probably do more after that. Yeah, I really liked doing that MacGyver video. I'll definitely do more. Yeah, Dana, I'm sorry. Tomorrow's not Sunday. Tomorrow's Saturday. Your live stream is Sunday, not tomorrow. So your live stream is tomorrow, not Sunday. So I will be there tomorrow. Sunday is podcast recording. So I will be there tomorrow, Saturday, for your live stream. And I will not be there on Sunday for Social Justice Alchemy, but Social Justice Alchemy is on Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So sorry for the confusion. Kurok 2011 says, now back to Lois and Clark. I loved Tempest and wish DC would have continued with that. Tempest was awesome. Tempest was, I think, that show's great contribution to Superman. And it's a shame that the character wasn't picked up by other versions, by other shows, or by the comics. But at the same time, if Lane Davies hadn't played him, would the character have been as good? Like there's so much of that character of what makes that character good is rooted in the actor. Like his performance as Tempest is so good. When he's describing how people in the future, when they talk about Lois Lane, they're, amused by how she never figured out that Clark Kent was Superman because of the glasses. And he's like, everybody keeps asking the same question. How dumb was she? Or when he's going to release that computer virus and he's like, and Superman crashes through the wall. And he's like, you'll never stop it, Superman. You'll never crack the code in time, and then Superman just takes his fist and beats the computer into a pulp. And Tempest is like, oh, or you could do that. You could just do that. Like he's a great character and a great actor playing him. John Burns says, Steve, Portugal wanted cheaper spice. It was a governmental priority to send explorers to India and the Spice Islands. How's the price of gas where you live? Simply travel to the Middle East. Cheap gas. I think I see what you're getting at. I think it's colonialism, right? Like the colonial powers sent explorers out to find cheap resources that they could then bring back to the kingdom, right? So age of exploration led to inequality. I think that's what you're getting at. And if that is what you're getting at, I agree with that. Couple more questions, and then I'm gonna wrap things up for the evening. Super chat from Red Spiral Ray, who says, do you think commercialism has ruined creativity in Hollywood or set too high a monetary expectation of shows regardless of how good they are? I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's easy to say that yes, commercialism has ruined creativity, but I mean, like Hollywood has always been commercial. I think what has ruined creativity is not so much commercialism, but lack of imagination, and sort of a lack of courage, because there have been eras in Hollywood. There has never been an era in Hollywood where it wasn't commercial and where studios didn't care about making money. But in the 70s, before the rise of the modern blockbusters, there was a really nice pocket where studios realized they could try to make good movies and that those good movies would also make money. They could kind of have it both ways. They could care about the quality of the product and support filmmakers who are trying to innovate, trying to do new things, trying to tell unique, personal, artful stories. And that if they marketed these movies the right way, they would also make money, right? So it was still very commercial, but it was also commercial in a way that supported art and supported artists and encouraged individuality and creativity and innovation, and wasn't just boilerplate. Oh, this worked, let's do 15 different versions of that, because that's what people want, right? And now it seems like it's much more in that mode where, oh, they like superheroes, let's give them nothing but superheroes. Oh, they like science fiction, let's give them nothing but science fiction. Oh, they like adaptations of young adult book series, let's adapt all of them. Let's make them all the same, right? Like they've lost the creativity, they've lost the ability to take chances and to be imaginative. And the shame of it is, you don't need to give up making money, making profitable movies in order to do that. You can still do creative things and people will come and see the movies. Like, you know what I mean? Like the way they're doing it is not the only way to run a profitable movie industry, which is the same show. So it's not commercialism so much as the way they're going about it that is the problem, I think. John Burns with another super chat says, without refrigeration, spice kept your people alive. So the government needed cheap spice, kind of like if a pandemic came along and you had access to vaccinations, you'd want them cheaply, right? Yes, I suppose so. 255 AD. Do I think Tolkien was a bad writer? Yeah. I mean, I was going to try to be like diplomatic about it. Well, he's not really. Yeah, I think he's a bad writer. I've never been able to read more than a page of his writing without going, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, no, I mean, it's a matter of opinion. Like, obviously, there's lots of people who don't share that opinion. But for me, I don't think he was a very good writer at all. He reads like a guy who was really full of shit. And was like, and I know people can, and Jason, believe me, I've heard the talk from Jason about, oh, he was writing about the war and he was writing, oh, fuck. God damn it. Get over yourself. JRR. Jesus Christ. Like he's writing the fucking Bible. Like he's writing Shakespeare. He's writing about fucking elves and little, hobbits trying to carry a ring from one place to another. Jesus fucking Christ. I don't think he was a good writer. Super chat from Juliet S says, hey, Steve, just sneaking in near the end to say I thoroughly enjoy your media analysis and regularly watch it on company time. Thanks for making micro acts of rebellion even more fun. Anchovies on pizza? Yes, I do like anchovies on pizza, actually. I don't get them regularly, but I get them occasionally, and I have had them many times before. And yes, I enjoy anchovies on pizza. Okay, 255 AD says, you're on a spaceship with an automated food machine. How many meal options do you need not to get bored? Give me 10. Give me 10 different options. So that way I can not have the exact same thing every day. But yeah, give me at least 10 options. Super chat from Kirk 2011 says, my final praise on the Hulk. But Kenneth Johnson also created V, the series, which I loved and adored, and also Alien Nation, and also my favorite Tempest quote, hello, duh, Clark Kent is Superman. Yeah. Yeah, C.M.X. Shakespeare wrote about elves, but those aren't my favorite Shakespeare plays. I like the ones where it's like kings and soldiers and shit. And they're like soliloquizing at each other. I like Henry V, where he's like, I'm going to kill every goddamn one of these French motherfuckers. That's the Shakespeare I like. Or 100, 10 or 100. I don't really care. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up the show now, everybody. So thank you all for the super chats. Thank you all for the questions. Maynard Safe says, how do young Earth creationists explain human movement to the Americas post-flood without using or having the wheel? I think they go, oh, what's that over there? And then they change the subject. That's what I think. I've also heard the theory that the continents were in like a Pangea formation. So the people were all sort of spread out all over the supercontinent, and then the flood is what dispersed the continents. I've heard that theory before, but obviously that's not what happened. But anyway, so turning away from the chuper from the chuper chat, the super chat, the live chat now. So thanks everybody for watching. Don't forget the charity links linked in the description, charitylinks.page, that our friend Some Random Geek maintains for us, with links to some friends of ours who need a helping hand. If you're looking to be charitable and you have a few extra bucks to spare, you could do a lot worse than to help out our friends. Charity links are linked in the description. Also, don't forget that tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, our friend Dana Cole on her YouTube channel, youtube.com, Dana Cole Dares, will be, thank you, Carrick 2011. Dana will be presenting her live stream series, The Saturday Six. It's her second episode. And the first episode went really well, and I was so proud of her, and it was an awesome show. And tomorrow's episode is going to be even better. And it's tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Dana's channel. The link to both Dana's channel and also to the live stream itself are both in the description of this video that you're watching right now. So you can just go click over there right now and click the set reminder button so you won't miss it. You'll get a notification when it's about to start. And we can all hang out in the live chat and watch Dana's second live stream ever, the Saturday 6. That's tomorrow on Dana's channel at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So there you go. Also, don't forget, if you want to support my work, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Steve Shives, or by clicking the join button right here on the YouTube channel and becoming a member. Memberships and Patreon pledges really help me out. They allow me to continue to do this. So if you enjoy my work and you can afford it, becoming a patron or a channel member is awesome. And I really, really appreciate all of my members and all of my patrons. And one of the benefits you get as a patron and a member is you get to submit questions ahead of time for Ask Away. And those are the questions that I answer at the first part of the show. So there you go, patreon.com/Steve Shives, or click the join button. If you can support the channel, I would really, really appreciate it. Also, don't forget the podcasts that I co-host, the Let Me Listen family of podcasts. I co-host Late Seating, which is a movie review podcast alongside the great Jason Harding, where we take a look at classic films and decide whether they deserve whatever reputation they have. Most recently, we did one of my favorite movies ever, Unforgiven, and our next episode, which we're recording this weekend, is going to be about Bad Boys, directed by Michael Bay, starring Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. And also, in addition to Late Seating, I am on the Ensign's Log, the Star Trek-themed comedy podcast that I co-star in alongside Jason and Dana, the three of us together playing Star Trek characters, playing original characters, mostly, low-ranking Starfleet officers serving aboard Captain Picard's Enterprise, now in the early years of Star Trek TNG. Our stories kind of happening alongside or in the background of the original TNG episodes. It's a ton of fun. We have a great time making the show, and hopefully those of you who listen to it have a great time listening to it. And if you have not listened to it, you can listen to all of the Let Me Listen podcasts by going to soundcloud.com/lemmy-listen. And also there are links in the description to the individual playlists for the shows. You can go straight to Late Seating or to the Ensign's Log. So check out those podcasts. Thank you all so very much for watching. I will see you next week on Wednesday for another Trek Reluctantly with Dana. We will be watching Deep Space Nine. We'll be watching The Maquis Part 1. I'll see you in the live chat tomorrow, hopefully, for Dana's live stream on her channel. Again, that's linked in the description. And I'll see you in 2 weeks for another one of these. So thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Have a good weekend. Stay safe. Look after yourselves. And I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.